teens who are on social media face different issues. The impact it has on a developing teen's ability to focus, but it's also what it does to a developing female teen brain and then a developing male brain.
If we can't talk about the things, the worst things that could happen here on this phone, maybe it's not time for a phone. People that do intentionally victimize children, they're paying attention to whether or not that child is protected. I think one of the misconceptions is teens don't want to talk to their parents. They do. They just want you to show up in a way that allows them to say things that are scary and hard. Nothing could replace the experience of a truly present parent and real life joy and doing the things that people actually love.
Welcome back to Parenting. The Now generation, Kirsten Cobabe, is still with us for a second episode. I'm so excited to have her. If you're not following her on Instagram, go to @KirstenCobabe or Parenting Wave. I mean, Kirsten, first of all, thank you for being back with us.
It's my pleasure. I love connecting with you. Again, these are my topics. This is what I care about. I am here for it.
You are so good, and I've been following you. You're a personal coach, former therapist, teen whisperer, individual coach, joining parents, over 20 years experience helping us navigate those precious and wonderful teen years. We were talking about modeling relationships and the development of children in our last discussion, but now I wanted to talk about a few big ones: social media, gaming, addictions, and basically the realities of the impact the online world and the digital world has on all of our kids. So let's start with social media. It's like the most complicated issue.
Yeah, it's a big one. And it's everywhere. And it's not going anywhere. It will likely evolve. But yeah, here we are. And we know that it's, of course, designed to be captivating. And maybe some of people listening know that the teen years are wired for novelty and to feel good, and they have all those, we all do. It's getting that like or that comment or that whatever that is really does something to us. This is why slot machines are popular.
Yeah. Yes. And to have a young teen, and I'd love for you to talk to us about the difference maybe between a male consumer and a young girl consumer. But teens who are on social media face different issues. And I think we as parents try to lump it into one, but there's actually quite a few. There is the time suck of it and the impact it has on a developing teen's ability to focus. But it's also what it does to a developing female teen brain and then a developing male brain. And that building of like, who am I? Do I want to be this, what I'm consuming? Am I organically what my parents say I am, and the value system we have at home? I mean, there are so many complexities. And by the way, I hate to throw this nugget in there. There are the safety issues of who our kids could potentially be connecting with. How do we even start to deal with this? Especially, Kirsten, in my world, there's so many parents that say, I solved the problem. I'm not letting my kids use technology. Therefore, none of this applies to me. And I've always said that's not the approach. It's not the approach because they'll be on it. Huh?
Right. Wouldn't that be nice? Yeah, no, they will be on it.
Wouldn't that be nice? Yes.
Yeah, if I could just delete that part of life that's when it's not happening or not let it in. I mean, and I get that. You can prevent as much as possible from getting into your home. However, if your kid has friends or goes to school, they're going to be, here, look at this, here, they're going to be shown these things no matter what you have or haven't given your child. And so the real key is being more influential in your relationship than any of the influences in the world. And that's a big ask because they're very just pervasive and never ending and only getting stronger. I think one of the things just to hold on to, a little magic in that, is the more obvious all this is, the quicker we're going to be waking up. What's tricky is teenagers are vulnerable and sensitive. They're in a very, very unique stage of development, and they're it can be hijacked, it can co-opted, and worked, right? And so same with all of us. And there are some similarities between boys and girls, like the belonging piece or the what do I look like piece and all that. The difference is most of the time girls are looking for, or they find themselves in scenarios where they may become interested in like receiving attention, right?
Yes.
And this is just common in teen years anyway. And this is not a picking apart of anything, but when that's experienced through the lens of social media, it's not necessarily healthy, right? Because then it's like maybe putting out inappropriate photos, or it's saying something or doing something to get attention. And then for boys, they're often in the pornography land.
Yeah.
And that's really accessible now, unfortunately. And we know that that can be really detrimental. And what I'm seeing is actually kids are less, they're like not wanting to date and hold hands anymore and meet each other,
Yes.
and so there's less of that, which is incredibly impactful, because there's a lot of skills that get learned in the teen years when you're, remember going to your friend's house, bunch of boys and girls hang out, and all the awkwardness and silliness and all the things you learn isn't happening in the same way for a lot of kids now.
I am terrified when I read reports about online, boys as young as 8 being exposed or seeking out inappropriate material, and parents have no idea. There have been reports, I think in the later high school or college levels, where girls will say, boys are, the relationship is just becoming so extreme very quickly, and in some ways violent, because the consumption of inappropriate material is so pervasive. And by the way, parents who are thinking, thank God I have a good child. Thank God I'm in a good neighborhood. Thank God they go to the best religious school down. I mean, Kirsten, would you agree that when it comes to the digital space, a lot of that can be challenged in a more extreme way? Yes, good kids make good decisions in the real world and online, but they are facing a much more extreme level of potential content.
The phone has everything on it.
Yeah.
The worst parts of humanity. And so again, even if you have all the parameters and parental settings and all this stuff, they always have a friend that doesn't, or
Yeah.
something happens. And also I'll say that, I mean, like we spoke about the last conversation we had, I was in a pretty seriously scary relationship, and there wasn't social media or phones or anything. And so no matter what the thing is that's coming at us, the timeless piece is your relationship with your kid is at the heart of everything. And if we can't talk about the things, the worst things that could happen here on this phone, maybe it's not time for a phone. And same with dating. And
That's like, I want to stand up, but I'm not going to stand up because I'm going to ruin the shot. You know what I mean? But that is like everything. If you're not ready to talk about it, if you feel like your child's too, no, I can't scare them, or I don't want, then they're not ready, period, end of discussion. And, but Kirsten, let me just throw this, but it's not just a phone. It's the iPad, the family iPad that you throw at their lap. We had a recent case where a young girl was being exploited, graphically exploited through the smart TV in the home. She was learning how to connect online through the family's smart TV. So this was a family that didn't allow phones or even iPads, but they had a smart TV. So these conversations at all ages are critical.
Critical. I mean, we should be talking about things like consent and body and who can, be close to you when you're not close, when they're very little. This is so important to have this culture in our home in the way that makes sense for your family, because we also know, and you probably are aware of this, people that do intentionally victimize or come at children, they're paying attention to whether or not that child is protected. Is dad around? Are their parents around? And so that's some of why I ended up in a scenario. Again, it wasn't this scenario, but an older teen when I was a younger teen, really, it made sense why that happened. It wasn't healthy at all, but that person knew, they could sense what wasn't happening in my home, what I didn't have. And that person has their own version of what they needed too. And so it's really important for parents to know, okay, even if we can't be together 24/7, how do I make sure that I have a secure attachment with my kid and we can talk about actually anything? And talking about anything doesn't mean I lecture my kid and they know what's right and wrong, because
Yes.
kids are curious. And so we need to also make space for how to be curious in a healthy way. And also, we need to allow them to say no to us so they know they can do that in the world. We also need them to know, because shame and blame can feel so big, like that story about that girl. Girls
Yeah.
can sometimes blame themselves. Kids in general, they internalize everything, right? It's my fault. It's my fault. So we need to make sure they know it's nothing is ever their fault in this way. And
Nothing.
we need to know, we need to talk about the things we don't want to talk about, and in a way that just keeps that door open, and you have regular check-ins about it. And as they grow, there also needs to be, of course, age appropriate autonomy and privacy, but that needs to be really intentional.
Again, I love the way you package it. I love the way you package it. I think you hit all the key points in such a succinct way. Unconditional love is so important for children today from parents, because somebody else is willing to step into their world and at least act like the love is unconditional. And
Yep.
once they get a hold of your child, maybe that's when all of the demands start being made. But they will at least open the door with a feeling of unconditional love. Ultimately, kids need that from parents. And
Yes.
it doesn't mean that you're not raising and you're not correcting and you're not protecting. It's just your approach is very strategic, and the way you get your child to a healthy, safe place. And I
Exactly.
love the fact that you're a coach, like you will help a parent get to that point.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And even if you haven't done it all along, it's not over. Your teenager, I think one of the misconceptions is teens don't want to talk to their parents. They do. They
Yeah.
just want you to show up in a way that allows them to say things that are scary and hard. And so that's our work as the adults. And also, we can even dial it back to this, speaking of all the other pieces like the iPad and stuff. If you've happened to give your toddler an iPad at dinner, for years or something, because it made things easier and it was convenient. And this is not a shame blame thing. This is just a
No.
reality. We have to understand where we've been to understand where we are now. That same kid will then throw that right back in your face if you're trying to take their iPad away from them when they're 14 and it's no longer convenient for you. And so we
Yeah.
need to actually face this stuff. If we have, quote, maybe made decisions or mistakes, things that we wouldn't do now if we knew better then, whatever, we got to actually look at that and be like, I own that. That's true, of course. And here we are in this pattern. And so here's how we're going to reset as a family. We can't be hypocrites with teenagers, because they have way more energy to fight.
They, and we as parents, the most loving parents, it's okay if we're learning.
Yes, absolutely.
We talk to parents all the time that will say, my daughter, for example, has turned 13 and wants Instagram. And we've said absolutely not, or no posting. And a daughter will turn and say, Mom, you've been posting pictures of me since I was in diapers. And it's a fair point. And never to blame, never to shame, ever. But it's about how do we help parents think about this and then have appropriate answers and an appropriate plan.
That's right.
Let's talk about something even a bit more complicated. A lot of kids are gaming. I recently did a deep dive into Roblox. You know that 3 states are suing the company, attorneys generals and families are suing Roblox because there's a lot of predatory behavior on the platform. But there's a different issue. In addition to having to worry about predators and inappropriate content in the gaming world, I mean, Discord and the chat rooms of Discord alone, they're like horror films. There's the reality that kids, particularly boys, but not always, are actually finding their value and their ability to level up, to get to that next level. That kids, boys and girls alike, are finding it difficult to distinguish reality and fantasy. That a parent that will come and say, wait a minute, Roblox is dangerous. I actually don't want you in the platform. Or Minecraft. I don't want you in Minecraft anymore. Kids, Kirsten, are breaking down because they've legitimately spent time building a world that is very real to them. I mean, it's real. They can no longer differentiate real versus fake, reality versus fantasy. And if I may even say, they're placing, even if they understand the difference, they've placed their value in the fantasy world. That's what they want. Like, how on earth do we navigate this as parents? Like, this is so new. We did not experience anything like this in the 80s and 90s as kids.
Not at all. No, I remember it was, yeah, Mario Kart with a friend every once in
Yeah.
a while. Thing. And it wasn't connected to all kinds of people. It was
Yeah.
not online. So very, very different. And what I think about sometimes in that scenario, which is scary, and I mean, I'm terrified for all the kids all the time and their parents. It's just there is so much coming at everybody, and it's a lot to just be like boom, 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 and navigating. Not to mention all the other things about being a human. So let's
Yeah.
also even look at though if that reality. So what does that mean? The real world is like for these kids. So miserable that they'd rather
Mm.
be in an online world. Or and I don't mean like you have to give them every present and you have to be a millionaire. I'm actually because actually nothing could replace the experience of a truly present parent and real life joy and doing the things that people actually love. And the reason why sometimes it becomes only online is because the other pieces and parts weren't introduced or fostered or cultivated or valued along the way, right? A kid that might like to tinker with cars is, you have to get good grades at school, and all of a sudden they're put in, they're shifted away from what's naturally fun and enjoying and enjoyable for them, and they have to do all the right things at school and sit down and be inside and be quiet. Especially for a boy,
Yeah.
it's madness to imagine that that would be good for anyone, but children in general. And so no wonder they're like exhausted, want to escape, and need to
Escape.
feel that connection. So that's what I think about. Everything you're saying is true. And it's like, what brought us there? How did we get there? And what are they actually needing? And sometimes it is like a no more internet, no more games. We are going to go recover 3 months away on a retreat or at a facility or whatever. Sometimes it's that.
You mean like sending a child somewhere?
I mean, yeah, for
And I'm
some
sure you've
families that
seen that
happens.
level.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I mean, that's not every scenario, and not every facility is a great facility.
Yeah, that's I mean, that would be an extreme case, but I
That
know
would be
that
very
there are
extreme.
kids who have gone to wilderness camps
Right.
because their addiction to technology, their
Right.
their exposure to very dangerous people or content, that's the only way to protect them.
Right. And so that's very serious. And if it's less serious, it's like, okay, if you love online world, what about the real world would is missing or would feel better? And then also if your kid
I
is
love that question.
yeah, I mean, we can pull them out and drag them out, but it's going to be resistance, and that might be the most severe case. You want them to actually want to come out. And I don't mean this permissively at all, but if there's a way for them to be invited out that's exciting for them and real, and fun and speaks to their interests and values, they're gonna pop out. At least be more likely to than if we're like, "Did you do your homework? Have you cleaned your room?"
Yeah.
and all that stuff. They're
Put
gonna be
down your
like, "I'm
fantasy world to do your
yeah,
homework and clean your room may not be a good trade-off.
no, not at all." And also, if your kid's particularly tech savvy, can they go learn with a safe person that's built a business in tech? Can they
Yeah.
make $12 million a month? Like,
Yeah.
let's go.
Yeah. I actually talk about that in my book. There are universities now that offer degrees in gaming. There is a whole world of businesses that are developing around this. We've got to move, and you said it at the start of our first episode, which is the world is evolving and changing. Not all of it's bad. We've got to figure out, what could be potentially good for our children and not be afraid of it under the umbrella of what are our family values? Who do I
Exactly.
believe I need to raise my child to be and to believe in and to stand firm on? And how do I help them navigate through the developmental changes that are organic? They're happening either way. One of the questions I have as you were talking about pulling your child out is there a point where even emotional reasoning is not practical because the child has developed an addiction? That addiction to like the slot machines you mentioned, the sound and the lights and the hit, that dopamine hit. What if I can't even lure them out with something even more appealing in the real world?
Right. Yeah, there's something that's coming up that I remember learning in my many internships in the world of community mental health, and it's called the stages of change, and it's often used with regard to addiction. And so it's pre-contemplative, contemplative, I think like maintenance plans. There's like five, and you want to know where someone is in that to be able to engage with them where they actually are. Because if it's pre-contemplative stage and someone doesn't even know there's a problem, so you can't come in like expecting them to be in a different part of the cycle, right? We have to just have an awareness of that. I think that can be really helpful to frame it. And then also the developmental piece you speak to. What's actually happening in their brain right now? Because kids don't have the same abilities that most adults have if they've grown properly and evolved through the stages properly with regard to long-term thinking, consequences, critical thinking, discernment. We need to make sure that we're teaching kids this, that it's okay to say no anytime, that we are on their side, that we're with them, that, all of those pieces and parts, because just to send them out into screenland is like throwing them into, a pack of wolves or something.
Yeah.
They deserve and they need to learn those skills. And we're the ones, us adults, that are responsible for teaching them that. And while it might be convenient to let them do whatever because then you don't have to fight, it comes back around. There's no escaping the work and the raising that's required. And if the parent doesn't do it and the child becomes an adult and they don't have these skills, then society is now the one that will be holding that person. And I don't say that to blame a parent. It's like impossible right now, right? Where is the village? And really it's about having a healthy village. This is not all supposed to be on one parent or two parents' shoulder.
Yes.
It's one of the reasons why I do what I do, because and it's just necessary. And teenagers specifically, which is what's vulnerable about this age, they need people beyond their parents to guide them and to mentor them and to coach them, but not everybody is a safe person. For example, when I meet teens, I of course talk to their parents first and then we introduce the concept. If they don't like talking to me or want to talk to me, that's fine. And I want them to honor that, because these are the ways we show them that they can trust themselves and all that stuff. It's very rare that happens, but it's important to me that I don't need someone, a child to want to work with me. I don't have an agenda in that way. And so that's just a minor way that parents can think about. And same with, I'm trying to think of other opportunities that allow parents to really foster that sense of self that can withstand the weight of the world and the pressures. And so it might be like the grades at school or a difficulty with a teacher. Instead of just do as you're told, that's not going to help them in those scenarios that could get sketchy online.
Yeah, it's giving them ownership and knowing that they have a say and they have choices, while you have your eye fixated on the goal and what's right for them in the long. I mean, research shows that family factors and parent-child relationships play a role in risks of addictions, whether it be gaming and others. And so that those family factors, that parent-child relationship that you're talking about, is so deeply important. And I'm thankful for your coaching, and whether you're not able to. Kirsten, do you see families digitally?
I do. Yep.
Okay. So
if this is all relevant.
Yeah, I mean, and you're in Hawaii, so it's like, if you're not in Hawaii and you'd like to reach out to Kirsten, you can do that. But also following your Instagram pages is so valuable, because your nuggets of information carry a lot of weight and a lot of wisdom and a lot of guidance, and we need this. Between the developmental changes, between what the world is pushing on children because it sells and it's addictive and it's consumerism, and yet what we know is healthy or unhealthy for children, there is so much that we need to navigate. And quite honestly, it can feel overwhelming. But at the end of the day, I really do believe there are solutions, and there are solutions in these conversations and in all the various things that we've been talking about. When do you feel like, at what point, I mean, is it just, you said if a child doesn't want to talk to you, you're okay with that. But at what point do we have to stop taking the child's lead and say no? I mean, you mentioned, sending them away to a wilderness camp. Like, how do we know we're there?
Yeah, that's such a personal decision, and it's a good question, because it looks different for every family, right? If I personally, if they're not interested in talking, I can see how it would be like an uphill battle that could even be negatively impactful in the relationship. But then again, like, let's look at, kind of Goodwill Hunting as an example, right? He didn't want to talk. And they kept meeting. And so I do that too, right? The teens that don't want to talk, I'm like, that's okay. We don't have to talk. We can just like hang out and sit here.
So
And
it's
I used
not
to do,
like giving up on it. It's just using a different strategy.
yeah, like when that's appropriate, right? If it's just like this kid's not talking and like they're 17, like good luck, right? I mean, they're
Yeah.
almost an adult. So,
Yeah.
but and I've also had those examples with younger ones when I was a therapist and they're like, I don't want to talk. I just want to like draw or show you my poetry. And I'm like, great, we can do that. And that's how I build trust. And I say this all because we got to meet people where they are, and that shows respect and that builds trust. What's scary and what I hear you talking about is that there are people that will do that that don't have good intentions,
Right.
and that's
Right.
what's really intense. And parents aren't with their kids on the farm like they used to be a couple hundred years ago. You guys are separated from your kids all day. Stuff that happens in school like often isn't appropriate or healthy either. And so there's a lot that kids are navigating, that parents are navigating. I mean, the stories I hear about what some kids go through, even at school, where it's supposed to be a safe place, it's ridiculous. It's insane.
It's
And so I
insane.
think we're all missing the community piece, the understanding what children really need. And I think we're a few generations. I don't know, maybe it's forever. Maybe it's never happened. Maybe kids have never gotten what they needed from adults. Maybe this is part of how we're growing and evolving. And now it's at a point where we can't stuff it anymore. There's no more space down there, and it's all coming up. And so that's what these moments in life are, I think, where all this stuff is coming at us. We have no choice but to talk about it, deal with it, look at it, find the right supports, find the right people, and put our kids in that path that is actually the most true path for them, that honors who they are and their gifts and talents. Because these kids, unless they're an amazing game developer, I mean, it is so many months, years lost.
I don't
Truly,
know.
unless it's really genuinely fun and fulfilling for them. And that's sometimes the case, but
Well, and I think about your statement of historically, have kids not been getting what they need from families, or have they been? I do think that the level of issues that they're dealing with now, I mean, 30 years ago, kids could not click a button and access violent, inappropriate, criminal, exploitive content. I mean, they just couldn't. They'd have to figure out a way to get a strange, it was. And now, I mean, between the Uberization of pills, they can click a button and get a pill delivered to their house that could potentially be laced with fentanyl. They can take a picture and have somebody distort it with AI and use it to exploit them. I mean, the issues that are on their shoulders are so unbelievable and just do not align with anything we've dealt with historically. And then you have parents who are not digital natives, or maybe, are, but it's just a different, everything is changing so quickly. There are three things I was looking at. There's the teen relationship with others online. There's the teen's relationship with their self, how they see themselves based on what they're seeing online. And then there's the teen's relationship with these fantasy worlds that they've developed. And all of that is being developed while their brains are immature and their bodies are changing. So the parents need help, and there's nothing wrong with that. We
not
need
at all.
somebody to help us navigate this time. And some of our kids are not gaming; they're not interested in that, and that's so great. But they might be spending all of their time even on Pinterest, and we still need to figure out how to navigate these changes.
Right. How can we create a connection that's equal to or even more influential than all these influences? It means we have to be real and we have to dig really deep, and to recognize too that just like with any group, whether it's online or in real life, these ideas, ideologies, ways of thinking are part of your child's world as they're developing and shaping who they are. And so it does really matter the company we keep, and the people we're around and the places we are, and also that what level of consuming and what's the value of it, just like the food we eat. How actually healthy is this, and how much is this? And then our cortisol. I mean, people's cortisol levels are just right now. It is an intense time. Everything feels emergent, and so anything that you can actually remember isn't emergent, like the getting the best grade or whatever. Get that stuff off the plate. Make space for what really matters. Come back to just the real deal, and that's something that I think is possible. Even if it's the only thing that matters is making sure my kid is safe online. Great. That's what you're going to pay attention to, and then bringing enough joy into their life that fills their cup and keeps them connected to the real world as well.
I have to take navigating all of this is very complicated. Again, raising 3 teen girls. I spend so much time praying for them, so much time praying for their friends and the people they're going to interact with in the real world and then in the digital space, praying for community, trying to build community. It's a lot of work. Being a parent today is not easy, but it's filled with hope too, because there are so many people like you, this podcast through KSBJ and Way FM Radio and Hope Media Group. These platforms are here to help and lend a hand. And we want to hear from you. So Kirsten Cobabe is right there on Instagram. I reached out to her and she responded right away. I don't know that she has the time to respond to everybody, but there's a very live connection there. And so I'd encourage people to reach out. I'd encourage people to reach out to Kirsten. We're so thankful for your time live from Hawaii. Thank you for waking up early and being with us for 2 shows now. And I'm sure we're going to plan more in the future. Kirsten, you're just wonderful. Thank you.
You are so wonderful. Thank you for doing what you're doing. Yeah, we can build these healthy villages. We're the ones. So
yeah, we're doing it. Follow Kirsten Cobabe and the Parenting Wave, it's at Parenting Wave. And to everybody, keep following us at Parenting the Now Generation. Let us know what you want to hear about, and we'll catch you next time. Take care, everybody.